Oh, hey. Oh, you're a little early. Hold on a second. That's better. Hey, I just thought we'd take some time and go over how I set up my palette, specifically with the painting that I'm working on right now, which is a portrait. So we're going to take a moment here and go through the colors that I use, how I lay them out on the palette and where they are in relation to each other, and the benefits that this method gives me. So if you have any questions, feel free to note them in the comments and I'll answer them as I have a chance. Thanks! Hey there! So here we are at my easel. I have my 9x12 Gorilla box here. It's been retired from the field and now serves me in the studio. So you can see here my palette is kind of grody. I am really bad about leaving my paintings, you know, put down a stroke, run and check on the kids, do something with dinner, and before I know it, an hour or two has gone by, and so you get these little mixtures that start to tack up, and when I come back to the palette, they don't get cleaned up. Anyway, so I've got a really interesting patina here, but it's kind of interfering with any accurate color mixtures and whatnot. I mean, it's possible, but why make it harder on yourself? So what I do with this palette now is I use some palette paper and I just place it over my palette. So I'm gonna do that real quick. All right, we're back. Palette paper's on. Put a little white down. Gamblin has some really beautiful warm and cool white mixtures that are just excellent go-to. Yeah, you could definitely mix them yourself, but it's a nice little shortcut to have them handy. So I'm gonna put some warm white, cool white, this particular color is one of my favorites for portraiture. It is called Portland Warm Gray. It is just really beautiful. This is a color I've recently started using. It's another shortcut color. It's called Asphaltum. And it's just a really beautiful brown mixture that I enjoy using. So that's going to go over here as well. So I kind of look at this side of my palette as the neutrals that I pull from to add to mixtures if I need to gray something down or maybe lighten it with a touch of warmth or cool to it. And then along the top here we're going to use more of the pure colors. So here we have Hansa Yellow Medium. This is a really beautiful, cool yellow. How cool can it be, right? But it's more on the cool side of the yellow, and it makes really vibrant greens, and it also is opaque. It's one of the few colors that you'll see on this side of my palette that is opaque. So when I use it in my mixtures, I use it to lighten the value most of the time. So this next color is called Indian Yellow. It is transparent, very warm, and it's just one of my favorite colors. So we're gonna put this down here. Next color is Perylene Red. This transparent red is just yummy. When mixed with say phthalo blue or even sap green, it makes the most luminous black. You could even mix it with ultramarine blue if you wanted to and get a really beautiful, deep, dark, luscious black. This color is Quinacridone Magenta, also known as the Painted Lady's official color. It's just one of the best colors there is. So I don't know how I can add to that. Alright, getting into the blues, we have ultramarine blue, phthalo blue. This one is extremely potent, so I need just a smidge. All right, so this is sap green. It's a mixture that I've really enjoyed using in my paintings. Similar to what I said about asphaltum, you know, and the warm and cool whites. You know, you can mix a lot of these colors, but having the shortcut handy is really, really beneficial. And this particular sap green, which is transparent, is just so versatile, and I really enjoy using it. I'm going to show you some of the mixtures that I did for working on this portrait painting. We'll start with the Portland Warm Gray just as a base. It's really, really beautiful color. All right, so add some of this Indian Yellow. And the Purline Red. Just beautiful, rosy. Like you can see this in rosy cheeks, just right off the bat. Okay, Gamblin, maybe that's a new mixture for you. New color, rosy cheeks. All right, so then when working on a portrait, you know, you want the really subtle value shifts. I mean, you don't just want big circles on the cheeks with this color. You want it to react to shifts in temperature as the cheek wraps around the side of the face. You know, you get different planes reflecting different light sources. So say you want towards the top of the cheek, closer to the eye, it's going to be a little bit cooler. It's reflecting the sky. So we're going to add some ultramarine blue. So we've got a little bit cooler here. One problem. If it's reflecting the sky, chances are it's going to be a little lighter, right? So we need to bring that value up a little bit, lighten the mixture. So I'm going to pull from that cool white. Now I could have added white. White by nature, when added to a mixture, automatically cools. But having that cool white handy accelerates that cooling a little bit. So right now it's just ever so slightly lighter than the rosy cheek mixture. So I'm going to leave part of that right there, and then I'm going to take a little bit and lighten it even further. Again, pulling from that cool white. Can you imagine trying to mix these colors on that messy palette I had? Trying to see those really subtle shifts would be hard. Okay, I've moved the camera a little bit so we have less glare on the palette. So the last mixture that I did here is the, as the cheek would be wrapping around the bottom of the face towards the jaw, it would be reflecting the grass, and the light that is shining on the grass would then be radiating up towards the child's cheek. So here I took some of the original cheek mixture, pulled it aside, and I added a little bit of sap green and warmed it back up with the Indian Yellow. All right, I'll show you some of those, that black that I was telling you about with the Purline Red. So I've got Purline Red here. We'll use ultramarine blue first, just because it's the most popular of those three cool darks. So most of you at home probably have in your paint drawer. All right, so I don't know if you'll be able to see this here, but it is just yummy. So again, taking the Purline Red, I'm going to mix a little bit of the phthalo blue. Now the phthalo blue is a lot more potent than the ultramarine blue, so it's not going to take nearly as much of the phthalo blue as it did the ultramarine. I'm very timid with the phthalo, can you tell? may have been burned a couple times. All right, so here we are again. It's a very similar result, but just delicious. And lastly, we will take some purline and the sap green. So this last mixture is going to be the warmest of the three and the most neutral, being that the red and the green are opposites. So another tip that I like to give my students is that when using shadows, try to keep them transparent. This gives the illusion of depth that the subject or whatever it is that you're trying to convey through paint continues into the canvas. So like say you're painting foliage and you're putting shadow under the branches. Now the branches themselves are sticking out towards the viewer, but the shadow underneath the branch would be receding into the distance. And so by having this transparent mixture, any one of these, even to the cooler shade, it just kind of fools the eye into believing that it's receding. So something to keep in mind. Also with your shadows, you want to have less texture. In addition to the topographical difference, and your eye tends to be drawn to thickest points on the painting. So naturally, if you don't want the shadow under the branch to take the show, you might not want that to be the thickest part on your painting. But also, when you have texture, it catches light. So hopefully you can see some of that here. Put some ridges down. So you don't want these glistening highlights distracting the viewer in your shadows. So while, some texture is fine, but just be aware as you're laying down your strokes how the texture will alter the appearance of your shapes overall. Oops. So that's just some quick tricks that I like to share with my students. Okay, so here's the painting that I've been using these mixtures on. Here you can see the charcoal drawing that I did at first. It was a photo submitted by one of my Facebook friends, and it was just so adorable. I was really excited to draw it. So here it's a charcoal on Canson pastel paper. I really enjoy working on the back of the paper as opposed to the front. The front has a much more aggressive tooth to it, which is really great for like gestures and whatnot. But when you're doing something a little bit more detailed, you want something that you can capture the little subtleties of a portrait, and so the back of the paper works really great. I also recommend, if at all possible, have the reference photo close to your painting area. From this charcoal drawing, I was able to develop a value study on my actual painting. Underneath this painting is a wash of one of those neutral black mixtures, only with the addition of asphaltum that I just showed you on my palette. So after I was done blocking in the values with the thin wash, I moved to the actual reference photo to help me capture just the sweet expression of this little girl. Thanks for watching Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about my latest painting, the colors that I used, and some of the mixtures to get those skin tones, as well as learning my favorite black mixtures. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments. I look forward to catching up with you later. Thanks so much.